Hello, dear listeners of Bedtime Stories. Tonight, let's slowly walk into a tale that might make you wonder, are dreams truly just fleeting thoughts? Or is there an unseen thread connecting them to reality? Close your eyes slowly, take a deep breath, and let me take you.
My name is Hana. I'm a wedding photographer, always passionate about capturing moments of joy. Every smile, every tear of happiness is a part of my art, but somehow my life began to be overshadowed by a series of strange dreams. The dream was always the same: an old colonial style house surrounded by a lush but silent garden. Inside, I saw a young woman. Her face was beautiful, with a smile that hid sadness. She always wore a faded white wedding dress, standing in front of a mirror as if waiting for something. Her long hair fell loosely, covering part of her face. I always wanted to see her eyes, but I never could. Strangely, in that dream, I always felt familiar with the place, as if I had been there before. The dream came almost every night for weeks, until it began to bother me. I even tried to find out if such a house existed in this city, but found nothing. I tried to dismiss it as just a side effect of my work, dealing with weddings so often. One afternoon, my phone rang. A new client, Mrs. Wadi, wanted me to photograph her son's wedding. Her voice was slightly rushed, even sounding desperate. Our previous photographer suddenly resigned, she said. We really like your portfolio, Hana. Can you come to the location tomorrow morning? I agreed. The location was called Puri Anggrek, a classic wedding venue on the outskirts of the city. Mrs. Wati emphasized that it was a very private event, only for close family. The next morning, I drove towards Puri Anggrek, the winding path, tall trees looming as if welcoming me, and when I saw the main gate, my heart sank. The house. It was the exact same house from my dream, old colonial style, lush, silent garden. Even the moss details on the walls and the slightly weathered wooden windows were identical. A strong sense of déjà vu overwhelmed me. I trembled, but curiosity won me over. I entered. The interior was grand, but felt empty. A cold air enveloped me, even though it was broad daylight. Mrs. Wati greeted me with a forced smile. Hana, thank you for coming. The bride is ready in the upstairs room. I'll accompany you. As I climbed the creaking wooden stairs, I felt a piercing cold. In one of the corridors, there was a large mirror with antique carvings. My heart pounded. It was the same mirror. Mrs. Wadi opened a room door. Here she is, Hana, the bride. Inside, a young woman sat in front of the mirror, wearing a white wedding dress that looked very worn. Her long hair covered her face. She didn't move. Her body looked very thin. Sorry, she's a bit shy, Mrs. Wadi whispered. You can photograph her from behind first. I nodded, my hands trembling slightly as I raised my camera. A strong scent of jasmine filled the room, but it wasn't fresh jasmine. It was jasmine that was starting to wilt, mixed with the smell of earth. The camera focused on the woman's back, her dress, the exact same dress from my dream. I tried to photograph her face from the side, but she always looked down, her hair like an impenetrable curtain. I felt strange. Why didn't she move at all? Why was she so quiet? I spent several hours photographing at Puri Anggrek. During that time, I didn't see the groom. I also didn't see any other guests, except for a few servants who also looked pale and silent. Mrs. Wadi always accompanied me, but every time I tried to ask about the bride, she would change the subject or answer vaguely. This bride, what's her name, madam? I asked. She just wants this day to be perfect, Mrs. Wadi replied, her voice trembling. The strangest thing was Mrs. Wadi's eyes. There was a deep sadness and fear there, as if she was hiding a big secret. When I finished, I excused myself to go home. Thank you so much, Hana. You've really helped us, Mrs. Wadi said, her voice relieved yet sad. On the way home, my mind raced. The house, the woman, her dress, the mirror. Everything was identical to my dream. But why? And why was everyone so mysterious? I felt something was terribly wrong. Unable to sleep that night, I decided to find out more about Puri Anggrek. I started searching online, in old archives. It took time, but I finally found something that made my blood run cold. Puri Anggrek was the home of the Wijaya family, a prominent family in the past. Decades ago, their youngest daughter, named Ayu, was supposed to get married there. However, on her wedding day, in the early hours of the morning, Ayu was found dead in her own room. Suicide. Whether due to heartbreak or pressure, no one knew for sure. Since then, the Wijaya family never held weddings there again, and the house had been abandoned for a long time. What was more horrifying, the old article included a photo of a young, beautiful woman with a smile that held sadness, her long hair wearing a wedding dress, her face. It was the face of the woman in my dream, the face of the bride I had just photographed. My heart pounded. No, it couldn't be. This must be wrong. I must be mistaken. But the resemblance was too striking. The same dress, the same mirror, the same face, whose eyes I could never clearly see because they were covered by hair. I looked at the calendar on my phone. Today's date was April 27th. Then I remembered the article mentioning Ayu's death date. She died on her wedding day, April 27th, decades ago. That night, the same date. I immediately called Mrs. Wadi, but my calls went unanswered. Again and again, no answer. Cold sweat drenched my back. I tried to calm myself. There must be a logical explanation. Maybe it was the anniversary of her death, and the family was holding some kind of ritual. I couldn't wait until tomorrow. I had to go back to Puri Anggrek. Grabbing my car keys with trembling hands, I drove back onto the dark road leading to the old house. Upon arrival, the gate was slightly ajar, as if waiting for me. The house was pitch black. No lights were on. The scent of wilting jasmine pierced my nose. I entered slowly. The atmosphere was so quiet, no signs of life. I climbed the creaking stairs, heading to the bride's room. The door to the room was slightly open. I peeked inside. Dark. I turned on my phone's flashlight. And there, sitting in front of the antique mirror, was the woman in the wedding dress. She was still in the same position, with her back to me. Her long hair covered her shoulders and back. Her white dress looked even more faded and yellowish under the flashlight. "Mrs. Wadi?" I called out, my voice trembling. "Excuse me, I'm back. There's something I need to ask." No answer. My courage, I don't know where it came from. I stepped closer. I had to see her face. I had to be sure. With trembling hands, I reached for her shoulder and slowly turned her. And under the light of my phone's flashlight, what I found was not a face. What I found was the back of a shattered head with a cracked skull and matted, dull hair like the remnants of a very old corpse. The woman had no face in front, or rather, there was only a dark, empty cavity where a face should have been. The wedding dress covered something far more horrifying than just a thin body. I screamed, stumbling backward. My phone fell, its flashlight going out. Total darkness. The smell of rotten jasmine was now incredibly strong, sickening. I heard a sound. Slow, creaking footsteps approaching. Not the sound of shoes, but like the dragging of old fabric and something being pulled across the floor. "You came again?" The voice whispered, hoarse and cold, like a breath from a grave. A voice I recognized from my dream, but now far more terrifying. I ran as fast as I could down the stairs, not caring if I tripped. Out of the house, through the dark garden, to my car. I don't know how I got there. I started the engine and sped away as fast as lightning, not daring to look back. Since that night, I've never photographed another wedding. I've never been able to sleep soundly again. Every time I close my eyes, that faceless face haunts me. Puri Anggrek has now been razed to the ground. A few weeks after the incident, the Wijaya family, represented by Mrs. Wati, who turned out to be Ayu's sister, sold it and requested it be demolished immediately. They said it was time for Ayu to finally rest in peace and no longer wait for someone who would never come on her wedding day that never happened. I realized one terrifying thing. The woman in Puri Anggrek was not a bride waiting for me to photograph her. She was The same bride who always waited for me in my dreams. She had been waiting for decades. And perhaps I was meant to be the groom in that dream, always anticipated. For what, I don't know. Or perhaps even more terrifying, I was the last photographer she allowed to photograph her before she truly disappeared. Tonight, I just want you to know, sometimes dreams are not just fleeting thoughts. Sometimes dreams are an invitation from the past, from a waiting that never ends. So when you close your eyes tonight, listen carefully. Is there a whisper calling your name? Is there an unfulfilled promise? Good night, and may you not find the forgotten bride in your dreams.